Chapter 9:18. I will let you stay, but only for this day. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth. Cole smiled and nodded. All right. Gu Mengmeng glared at Cole. But you must promise not to make things difficult for Qixuan. Cole nodded and promised. I promise not to make things difficult for him because of this. Gu Mengmeng nodded and ignored Cole. She took Qixuan from Li's arms and handed him over to Elvis. Hubby, bring Qixuan back to the stone castle and settle him down. I want to stay behind and wait for Sandy to wake up. Let Leah accompany you. No matter how powerful she was, he would never learn to trust her. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Colin is injured. Leah can take a look at him. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's brow and then carried Qixuan over his shoulder. He exchanged a look with Leah before leaving. Cole was treated like air by Gu Mengmeng the entire time. She could only see Leah. They clearly had the same face and body, but she could easily tell who was who between the two of them. How did she do it? Cole was getting more curious but did not pursue the matter. He just followed behind Gu Mengmeng wherever she went. Leah walked to Colin's side and pulled up his broken arm. He snorted and said with a look of disdain, useless. Colin lowered his head and did not dare to retort. Leah used a tree branch to fix Colin's arm in place. To think that you had to give up your position as the messenger's guard. You are just like a bear, placing you beside my Gu Mengmeng. You are really bringing down my Gu Mengmeng's glorious image. All right, Leah. Gu Mengmeng rarely saw Leah speak so sharply. Every word he said pierced right into someone's heart. Colin was just a third-level beast. Gu Mengmeng felt that he was already very manly for daring to stand in front of Cole to protect Sandy. This was an honorable injury and should not be treated like this by Leah. Leah turned to look at Gu Mengmeng with a resentful gaze. Your heart aches? Did you really like him back then? Gu Mengmeng pinched Li's waist harshly. What nonsense are you spouting? Is it something a human would do to steal one's best friend? What do you take me for? Leah immediately mumbled timidly, don't be angry, I won't say it, all right? As he spoke, Leah had already fixed Colin's hand in place. Unsure if it was intentional or not, Li's finger kept tapping on the fixed branch, causing Colin's entire arm to go numb. He gritted his teeth but did not dare to make a sound. You're not allowed to take this branch off. Keep it there until Sandy gives birth. Do you understand? After saying that, Leah then stopped tapping his fingers on the tree branch and pounced towards Gu Mengmeng, hugging her whole body. He rubbed the side of her face coquettishly and said, Mengmeng, I don't like it when you protect other males. I'm jealous. Gu Mengmeng felt helpless towards Li's unscrupulous words of jealousy. She could only turn around and stroke his head that was on her shoulder, saying, I'm not protecting Colin, it's just that, it's immoral to bully an injured person. Leah kissed the side of Gu Mengmeng's face and said, I'm not bullying him. I'm telling him that if he wants to protect his own female, sacrificing himself is not enough. Becoming stronger is the only way out. First, he has to have the ability to protect himself. Only then can he better protect the people important to him. Digression, alright, today's update has ended. Chapter 9:19. A person who suppresses his own level and refuses to level up, using himself as a bait to teach others how to become stronger? Gu Mengmeng still felt angry and her heart ached when she recalled Li's decision. Leah smiled devilishly and poked Gu Mengmeng's little face with his finger. Then, he straightened his joystick and hugged Gu Mengmeng in the crook of his arm. He smiled and said, little fellow who loves to hold grudges, haven't I already changed? Moreover, our family situation is different from his. We have a strong enough Elvis in our family, that's why I dare to be a weak Leah. But in their family, he is the strongest. If he becomes a crippled beast, Sandy's entire family's battle power will be greatly reduced. Throwing Sandy's safety to the back of one's mind for a moment of bravery is really stupid. Undeniably, Li's words were not wrong. From an objective point of view, Colin must ensure his own safety and raise his abilities as soon as possible. That was the greatest guarantee for Sandy. Sacrificing himself in exchange for Sandy's temporary safety today was indeed a reckless move. If they were not around today, Cole could have just killed Colin before going after Sandy. By then, would Sandy still have a way out? But in the face of danger, where would one have the time to think so much? He was just relying on his instincts to protect the people most important to him. Gu Mengmeng still felt that this was not something he should be scolded for. Colin did not want Gu Mengmeng and Leah to fight because of him, so he lowered his head and said in a naive voice, "Gu Mengmeng, don't blame Leah. The only reason he's willing to treat me is because of your good relationship with Sandy." Usually, males in the tribe would fend for themselves when they are injured. If it wasn't for Leah, my arm would definitely be crippled. If I became a crippled beast, I would definitely leave on my own so as not to be a burden to Sandy. So, not only did Leah give me an arm, he also saved my life. Moreover, what he said is right, I must become stronger to protect Sandy. Fine, one was willing to take the hit while the other was willing to take the hit. It would seem like Gu Mengmeng was being a busybody. Gu Mengmeng smacked Colin's arm harshly, causing him to howl in pain. Gu Mengmeng, however, clapped her hands and said, "It's good that you know. Hurry up and improve your skills. If there's another situation where you are helpless when Sandy is in danger, I will bring Sandy away to stay with me." This time, not only Colin, even Leah had goosebumps all over his back. Sandy and Gu Mengmeng staying together? Then where would he and Elvis stay? What a joke. Glaring at Colin, Leah gritted his teeth and said, "You, from tomorrow onwards, take out half a day to report to Elvis for special training and quickly improve your abilities." Colin hurriedly nodded and promised, okay, I will work hard." Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered with these two fellows and wanted to get down from Lee's arms to see Sandy, but Leah refused to let go. "It's rare that Elvis isn't around, let me hug him." "You want to see Sandy, don't you? I'll take you there. Sandy is a female." Gu Mengmeng was implying that it was not convenient for him to enter. But Leah smiled slyly and said, "I am a witch doctor." Gu Mengmeng facebombed and thought to herself, "You are abusing your power to seek personal gains." Chapter 920. Sandy was still unconscious. Bode sat beside her, holding her little hand nervously. He stared at her intently, not moving an inch. Leah did not stand on ceremony at all and lifted his leg to kick Bode to the side. Bode looked at Leah and did not dare to make a sound. Firstly, Leah was a witch doctor and it was beneficial for Sandy that he was willing to take care of her. Secondly, he glanced at Gu Mengmeng, who was placed beside Sandy by Leah. She was the messenger of the beast deity, the biological daughter of the beast deity. She was the amalgamation of thousands of blessings. If she stayed by Sandy's side, she might bring her good luck. Moreover, perhaps the beast deity would look after Sandy and Gu Mengmeng because they were good friends. Most importantly, in Sandy's heart, Gu Mengmeng was even more important than her partners. If she woke up, she would definitely want to see Gu Mengmeng first. So, Bode did not say anything and just turned to walk out. He wanted to find some food to cook so that Sandy would not be hungry when she woke up and it would be too late. Gu Mengmeng did not have time to bother with Bode. She just held Sandy's little hand and gently stroked the stray hair on her forehead. She said softly, "Sandy, be good and don't make me worry. Quickly wake up, all right? You still have a baby in your tummy. It's not good for the baby if you sleep for too long. Didn't we agree that once your baby is born, you will recognize me as your godmother? You don't even know, my 4 little cubs have grown up and they don't even kiss me. I really miss the times when they were fluffy and acted like a spoiled child by my side. I plan to use the few in your tummy to satisfy my own fluffy fetish. So, quickly wake up, all right? Give birth to a few chubby and fluffy little fellows for me to play with?" Sandy seemed to have heard Gu Mengmeng's words. Her delicate brows furrowed before she slowly opened her eyes. She curled her lips and looked at Gu Mengmeng. She opened her mouth and only replied after a long while, "All right." Gu Mengmeng could not help but laugh. She helped Sandy sit up and teased, You agreed just like that? Your mother's heart is really big. Sandy was also smiling. It was a good thing that Gu Mengmeng liked her child. Why would she not agree? With a slight headache, Sandy did not speak his mind. She used her hands to support her body as she sat up straight and looked at everyone in the room. When her gaze landed on Cole, Sandy shuddered and instinctively tightened her grip on Gu Mengmeng's hand. She looked at Cole warily. Why are you here? What are you doing? Huda. Huda and the rest? What did you do to the wolf pups? Give the wolf cub back to me, give it back to me. Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy lightly and patted her back, saying, Sandy, don't be afraid, I am here. Sandy's body stiffened and she allowed Gu Mengmeng to hug her. Then, her head was in a mess and she felt a sharp pain as if she was being stabbed by needles. After a long while, her thoughts slowly returned to normal. How she had been threatened by Cole to go out alone, how she had foolishly believed that Cole and Gu Mengmeng were partners, and how she had even helped Cole and Gu Mengmeng get together. Bit by bit, everything returned to normal. Chapter 921. What nonsense are you talking about? Gu Mengmeng rubbed Sandy's little head and said, Don't think too much, as long as you are well, I will be at ease. Glancing at Bode who was busy at the door and Colin who was holding a tree branch in his hand, Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, Seeing that you are fine, I am relieved. I'll go back first. You and Colin take care of yourselves. When you've recovered, let's return to St. Nazaire. Sandy nodded and hugged Gu Mengmeng again. She did not get off the bed and just watched them leave. Cole followed Gu Mengmeng all the way. He knew that Gu Mengmeng didn't want to acknowledge him and that she didn't want to see him, but he just wanted to follow behind her. The fact that they had the same destination already made him happy. Returning to the stone castle, Gu Mengmeng saw Elvis stepping on Qixuan. Gu Mengmeng's brows twitched. He had just come back and witnessed a scene of domestic violence. Elvis. Gu Mengmeng rarely called Elvis by his full name. Elvis's brows twitched as he felt that he could not explain himself. As long as it was something related to the four young ones, Gu Mengmeng would always stand firmly on their side regardless of whether they were right or wrong. Now that she had seen herself stepping on Qixuan, even if he spouted all sorts of nonsense, he would still be in the wrong in her heart. You must feel wronged, far from it. After all, he had really beaten up Qixuan. But his heart ached and he did not want Gu Mengmeng to be angry. Hence, Elvis immediately let go of Qixuan without any principles and walked up to Gu Mengmeng to admit his mistake. Xiao Meng, don't be angry. I was wrong. Cole was taken aback. He knew better than Leah what kind of person Elvis was. After all, he had watched him grow up. Actually, he had once wanted to groom Elvis to replace Peter as the leader of the stray beasts. Unfortunately, this brat was unromantic. So many females were stripped and thrown in front of him, but he actually treated them as food and ate them directly. A little brat who couldn't even break through the third-level boundary really couldn't take on such a big responsibility. But just based on his ruthlessness, Cole still had the intention to groom him. However, he actually ran away in the end, letting down his efforts of nurturing him down in vain. But the Elvis who jumped out of the pit covered in blood and devoured his only brother without saying a word, was now, as docile as a dog, immediately wagging his tail and begging for forgiveness when his master called his name. His Gu was really capable. Not only did she tame the unruly Ninth Highness, she even tamed the bloodthirsty Elvis. Gu Mengmeng had no time to care about what Cole was thinking. She just jumped down from Li's body and pushed Elvis aside to walk to Qixuan's side. Seeing the bruises all over Qixuan's body, her heart ached terribly. Qixuan struggled free from Elvis's legs and wanted to retaliate, but when he saw Cole returning with Gu Mengmeng, he suppressed his anger and stood obediently at his original spot. He lowered his head to look at Gu Mengmeng and called out, "Mummy, sorry for making you worry." Chapter 922. Qixuan didn't object and just stared straight at Cole. Gu Mengmeng pinched her brows and sighed. She also looked at Cole and braced herself. Leah, what are you doing? Aren't you going to come over and let Qixuan take a look? Cole's lips curled into a faint smile. See how easy it was to control Gu Mengmeng. He didn't need to control Sandy and Oakley at all. Just Qi Xian alone could easily make her submit. Walking to Gu Mengmeng's side, Cole hesitated for a moment. But he still imitated Leah and rested his chin on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder. Gu Mengmeng, who was 1.72 meters tall, was really too short for him. Moreover, he was not as used to this action as Leah and Elvis. Even though he had practiced it countless times in his mind, it was his first time actually doing it. So he was still not used to it. The way he bent over made him look like a little lobster. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders impatiently. She glanced sideways at him. Don't push your luck. My patience has always been short. Cole raised his hands and took 2 steps back in a surrendering manner. He smiled helplessly. I just wanted to experience it, but I'm really not used to it. Gu Mengmeng ignored him. She just took the medicine from Leah and stuffed it into Cole's hands. Apply the medicine on my son. If even a single scar is left on his body, I will skin you alive. Is that a reward? If she was the one who personally skinned him, Cole's lips curled up. It was as if he had thought of something exciting and interesting. Yeah, full of anticipation. Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. But for Qishuan's sake, she had no choice but to tolerate it. Cole also knew when to stop. If he really angered her, he would definitely not be able to continue today's experience. He didn't want to give up so early on such an interesting experience. So Cole bent his knees and sat down. He patted his thighs. Little Xian, come here. I will apply the medicine for you. Yeah. Qi Xian was so docile that it was as if he wasn't the one who had wanted to fight Elvis with bloodshot eyes. He obediently lay on the ground with Cole's thighs as he allowed Cole to rub the herbs onto his body bit by bit. Even though the pain was so intense, he acted as if he couldn't feel it and didn't dodge at all. Gu Mengmeng's heart ached for her son, but there was nothing she could do. She could only turn to glare at Elvis and vent her anger. You really don't feel heartache when you beat him up, right? Elvis clearly knew that Gu Mengmeng was venting her anger on him, but he did not explain himself. He just wrapped his arms around her waist and brought her into his arms. He summoned his beast ears and fluttered them twice before lowering his head to deliver them to Gu Mengmeng. I know I was wrong. Let me let you pull my ears, all right? Gu Mengmeng's little hand touched Elvis's ears. She hardened her heart but couldn't bear to really pinch it. She only pulled it a few times before letting go. She straightened her neck and glared at Leah. Leah flew into Gu Mengmeng's arms. He rested his chin on Gu Mengmeng's knees and supported his cheeks with both hands. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng with his pure white beast ears quivering. He smiled in a fawning manner. Mengmeng, do you want to pinch my ears? You haven't pinched my ears in a long time here. Pinch them. Gu Mengmeng was nestled in Elvis's arms, but this slut was lying on her knees. She frowned. Scram as far as Mars is. Chapter 923. Gu Mengmeng had a nosebleed. It was not because of Lee's teasing, but because their current position was a little, indescribable. Elvis and Leah were both tall and muscular. She was nestled in Elvis's arms while Leah was sticking close to her. Be it Leah or Elvis, they could easily cover her up so tightly that no one could see a single strand of her hair. So, from any other angle, it looked like Leah was lying on Elvis's chest and muttering to herself. And because Elvis was looking down at Gu Mengmeng, the visual effect was that he was looking at Leah with a face full of love and adoration. Gu Mengmeng once again recalled the misunderstanding when she just transmigrated here. Leah and Elvis did not know what she was thinking about and just panicked when they saw her nosebleed. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and dashed out of the door without saying a word while Leah followed behind. If not for Cole's 5th-level power, he might not even be able to see how the two of them ran out. What happened? Cole did not understand, but he still stood up and chased after Elvis and Leah. There was no stream near Sauter, so Elvis ran a little further this time. When he finally reached the stream, he carried Gu Mengmeng and jumped in without saying a word. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded the entire time. She did not know why Elvis ran, and in order to not have a stomach full of wind, she could only keep her mouth shut tightly. Finally, Elvis stopped, and before she could even say, "What happened?" both of them fell into the water with a splash. They choked and coughed non-stop. Leah, who was following closely behind, patted her back to soothe her breathing while asking with a face full of concern, "How are you? Do you feel better after soaking in the stream?" Gu Mengmeng coughed until tears came out, and she really could not find the time to answer Lee's question. Finally, she stopped coughing and stared at Elvis and Leah with her big, watery eyes, who were looking at her as if she was a terminally ill patient. She said, "Who can tell me what happened?" Elvis held Gu Mengmeng's chin and stared at her nose. He watched as the glaring redness flowed down the water on her face and into the corner of her lips. His heart ached as if it was being pricked by thousands of needles. Gu Mengmeng tasted a fishy sweetness in her mouth. She touched it with her hand and saw that it was blood. He was stunned for 2 seconds before he asked, "Don't tell me you're so nervous just because I had a nosebleed." Elvis and Leah nodded their heads firmly under Gu Mengmeng's expectant gaze. Gu Mengmeng was especially speechless. She pinched her nose with one hand and dabbed the water on her forehead and nose with the other, ignoring them for the time being. She raised her head for a long while to make sure that her nosebleed had stopped before lowering her head. She wanted to scold them, but when she met Elvis's and Lee's crazed eyes, she swallowed back her words. She lifted her nose to show it to the two of them and said, "It's all right, it's not bleeding anymore. Look, it's done." Her eyes stared fixedly at Gu Mengmeng's nose for a long time before Gu Mengmeng heard 2 long sighs of relief. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. The two of them were so used to killing that they would not even blink even if their own flesh was torn apart. Yet, they almost went crazy because of her nosebleed. They were really drunk. Chapter 9:24. "We're not going back to the stone castle, it's too far." Elvis said to Leah, "Find a cave nearby, dig one if there's no suitable one. We'll stay by the stream from now on." Gu Mengmeng exclaimed, Hey, wait a while. Why do we have to stay by the stream? My sons are still in the stone castle. We'll go back to fetch them after we've settled down," Elvis said as he carried Gu Mengmeng towards the shore. They had come out in a hurry and did not bring any beast skin, so Elvis could only use his tail to wrap Gu Mengmeng tightly to prevent her from getting sick from the wind after entering the water. Gu Mengmeng had not seen Elvis pull such a long face at her for a long time, so she felt a little apprehensive. Wasn't it just a nosebleed? It's not like he was cheating on her, why was he so fierce? "That, hubby, why are you angry?" Gu Mengmeng asked carefully. Elvis stopped in his tracks and looked at Gu Mengmeng with a complicated and deep gaze. He said word by word in a hoarse voice, "I'm not angry, I'm afraid." Gu Mengmeng then looked at Cole, who had been following them all along. She pondered for a moment and felt that it was not possible, but she still opened her mouth to test him. "Are you afraid of Cole?" "Him? Ha!" Elvis laughed scornfully as a reply. Gu Mengmeng thought so too. Elvis had dared to fight Cole head-on when he was 3rd level, not to mention now. But, then what are you afraid of? Why do you have to stay by the stream? Gu Mengmeng really could not understand. Elvis's blue eyes seemed to contain a bottomless black hole, that whirlpool engulfing her within. His voice was very soft, but every word landed on Gu Mengmeng's heart. "You're bleeding, I'm afraid I'll lose you." Gu Mengmeng's heart trembled. Bleeding? Gu Mengmeng thought about it and understood. She asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, "Because I'm having a nosebleed, so you think I'm dying?" Xiao Meng. This was the first time Elvis shouted at her so sternly. Although it was only 2 words and it was just her name, it was the harshest thing he had ever said to her. But not only was Gu Mengmeng not afraid, she even laughed out loud. Wrapping her arms around Elvis's neck, she said softly, "Silly hubby, my nose is bleeding because we have been eating too much barbecued meat recently. In addition, you were afraid that I would be cold at night, so you always lit a fire in the room to roast me. That's all. My body is very good. I won't die. don't be afraid. Elvis was skeptical of Gu Mengmeng's explanation. They ate and lived together with Gu Mengmeng, but why did he, Leah and even the three little ones not have a nosebleed, but Gu Mengmeng did? Gu Mengmeng seemed to have seen through Elvis's thoughts and said, "You guys are males, so you must be more patient than me. I'm so delicate, don't you think?" Actually, Gu Mengmeng was mocking herself when she said the word delicate. It was mainly to ease the atmosphere and make Elvis and Leah happy. However, when Elvis and Leah thought about it seriously and nodded their heads in agreement, Gu Mengmeng blushed. She said she was delicate. She probably didn't want her face anymore in the future. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, as if he was still worried. He insisted, "Stay by the stream for a few days. I'll bring you back to the stone castle after I'm sure you're fine." Chapter 925. Banning barbecued meat from the menu? Gu Mengmeng could almost imagine Oraton's murderous expression when he heard this news. When they slept, the two of them hugged her together. Wouldn't the attacks she had to endure be multiplied when he unleashed his beastly nature? Was having a nosebleed a heinous crime? Why did he have to punish her like this? Sob, 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 that. I'll confess, I lied. Gu Mengmeng put on a pitiful and sincere look as she admitted her mistake. "I saw you and Elvis being too close and thought of some indescribable things, that's why I had a nosebleed. I promised to control my imagination and not to let my imagination run wild in the future. Can we just pretend that nothing happened?" Leah was taken aback for a moment, then he reached out and knocked Gu Mengmeng's head. "I've already mated with you, you actually still want to push me to someone else?" "Elvis is not someone else." Gu Mengmeng mumbled softly. "Gu Meng. Leah gritted his teeth, growling her full name. Seeing her nosebleed just now, both his and Elvis's hearts almost stopped beating in fear. Heaven knew how afraid they were of losing her just like that, but her nosebleed was actually because she was fantasizing about those things again. "I was wrong." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, not daring to talk back. Leah clenched his fists, really wanting to crush her to death. But before he even lifted his hand, he already knew that he could not bear to hurt even a single strand of her hair. Looking up at Elvis, Leah said unhappily, "You're the first partner, aren't you going to do anything about it?" Elvis's face was black the entire time, only heaven knew that his teeth were about to bleed from clenching so hard. He only replied coldly, "Even you can't do anything to her, but you think I can?" Leah glanced at Cole, who was watching the show from the corner of his eyes. His face full of surprise really pissed him off. "Wait a minute, Cole." Leah suddenly laughed and said, "I'm really not in a good mood. Why don't we go home and train the four little ones? I feel that although your father's method of training you was a little cruel, it's not completely without merit. With some slight modifications, it would definitely be suitable for Huda and his brothers." Elvis and Leah had worked together for many years and only needed a second to understand each other. Hence, he curled his lips and revealed a cold smile. "That's good too. I couldn't do anything to their mother, so I could only vent my anger on the four of them. It was only right and proper for a son to repay a mother's debt." I suddenly feel that I can understand what Peter did back then. Gu Mengmeng was really starting to have goosebumps. However, she was certain that the two of them were just scaring her. If they really treated the four little ones like that, she wouldn't just be upset. She would go crazy. Of course, they would be reluctant to do so. But their expressions were too King scary. Even though she knew that there was a 9,999% chance that it was just an act, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to bet on that 0.1% chance. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck and begged for mercy. "Hubby, I was wrong, I was really wrong. I won't let my thoughts run wild in the future. Don't treat our sons like this, I beg you, why don't you just punish me, dig a hole and bury me inside, sobs, 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 hubby, after burying me, please let our sons off." Elvis was unmoved and just stared coldly at Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 926. How long had it been since she called him Daddy Leah? He had tried to coax her to call him that when he was in a trance, but she refused. Now, how could he bear to really make her sad? He was just scaring her as punishment. But, any kind of punishment? What kind of fox would he be if he didn't reject a gift that was delivered right to his doorstep? Any kind of punishment? Leah suppressed the urge to smile and asked in a cold voice. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head vigorously and said, "As long as you don't bully my sons, I will accept any kind of punishment." Leah then tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose with a chuckle and said, "Remember your promise, if you dare to go back on it. I will put the blame on Huda and his brothers." "I don't dare to, I definitely won't go back on it." Gu Mengmeng hurriedly waved her hands and shook her head, being extremely obedient. Leah gave Elvis a look and the two of them tacitly decided to forget about this matter. After all, if they continued teasing her and she really cried, they would be the ones who would feel heartache. Seeing that her man's expression had softened, Gu Mengmeng was not too worried that she had sold herself out with her promise just now. After all, no matter how the two of them punished her, it was done on the basis of love and they would not really do anything to her. Gu Mengmeng probably described Gu Mengmeng's current state. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and asked with a smile, trying to please him, "Then can you tell me now, why did you throw me into the stream?" "I choked just now." Elvis had seen it when she choked on the water. At that time, he was worried about her nosebleed and did not have time to worry about it. Now, his heart really ached for her. Gently rubbing her little head, he said, "I remember the last time you had a nosebleed, you went to the stream and soaked yourself in the water, then you recovered. So, the moment I saw your nosebleed, I immediately brought you to the stream." The last time, Gu Mengmeng tried her best to recall that she had also had a nosebleed when she had just arrived in the beast world. At that time, she had just gotten to know Sandy and that lass had chased after Elvis as if she was about to die, attracting the attention of everyone in the tribe. She had a nosebleed and looked as if she was bidding farewell to a corpse. Thinking of that scene, Gu Mengmeng could not help but smile again. Her little head swayed and her eyes shone brightly. Elvis did not know what Gu Mengmeng was thinking about, but seeing her smile, the corners of his lips curled up unknowingly. When Gu Mengmeng snapped back from her memories, she met Elvis's deep and affectionate eyes. Gu Mengmeng's heart ached at the thought of how flustered he was just now. Because of her nosebleed, Elvis and Leah might really be frightened. To prevent such a thing from happening again, Gu Mengmeng decided to teach them the correct way to handle a nosebleed. After saying that, Elvis and Leah looked at each other. It turned out that as long as he splashed water on his forehead and nose bridge, and then raised his head, he would be fine. So, why did they run to the stream in such a hurry? On the way back, they met Qi Xian and Oakley who were chasing after them. Chapter 927. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt that she could not understand Oakley at all. He had always acted as if he was her enemy. That look that said no one could stop him from joining forces with Cole to unify the beast world made Gu Mengmeng bitterly disappointed. But just now, she was very sure that Oakley's bloodshot eyes and worried expression were not faked. Faking, he could not fake those minor details. It should be said that it was all thanks to Wang Xiaoxin. Because of her professional knowledge, Gu Mengmeng had a certain level of understanding of a person's micro-expressions. The success rate of lying in front of her now was extremely low. She did not know what Oakley was up to, but she knew that this friend still cared about her. This made Gu Mengmeng feel very comforted. Smiling, Gu Mengmeng replied, "I'm fine, just a little nosebleed." Elvis and Leah were too nervous and caused such a commotion. "Tell everyone to go back, it's fine now." "Yes." Oakley took another look at Gu Mengmeng, before turning around resolutely, hiding all his concern deep in his heart. Did he not dare to show any concern for her? It was impossible for him to be guarding against Leah and Elvis, so he could only be guarding against Cole. Was he not joining forces with Cole? What was he trying to deceive Cole about? Was it related to her? Gu Mengmeng could not figure it out, but it was not her place to probe further. Cole was too smart, especially when it came to manipulating people's hearts. No matter what Oakley was plotting, the chances of success were not high. At this moment, the least she could do was not to spoil his plans. So Gu Mengmeng kept her mouth shut and did not call Oakley. Instead, she allowed him to leave her sight and call her tribesmen back to the city. When she returned to the stone castle, the three little ones and Burke were waiting at the entrance. Seeing her return from afar, the three little ones pounced towards her. "Mummy, what happened? Why did everyone say that you died?" "Died?" Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. She had really witnessed the true meaning of rumors. Saying that she was dying because of a nosebleed, why not say that she had exploded on the spot? Gu Mengmeng jumped down from Elvis's arms and hugged the three little ones in her arms. She comforted them gently and said, "Don't listen to their nonsense. I have your father Beast and father Leah protecting me. How can I die?" Hada patted Kanwu and said, "That's right. Moreover, Mother is the messenger of the Beast deity. She said she has someone protecting her." Gu Mengmeng was tickled by Hada's grown-up look and added, "That's right, Mummy has people above me." Seeing that Gu Mengmeng was fine, Kanwu was relieved. He teased Hada, I wonder who was the one who looked as though he was struck by lightning. His eyes were dripping with oil. Does that mean Hada cried just now?" Hada blushed and said, "Don't talk nonsense, I didn't." Jiayu shook his head and took out a piece of beast skin from the house to pass to Gu Mengmeng. "Mummy, you are drenched. Wrap it up with the beast skin first. Don't fall sick." Gu Mengmeng nodded and took the beast skin from her son to wrap herself up. Then, she kissed Jialyu's little head and said, "Our Jialyu is so considerate." Jialyu chuckled and turned to look at Cole. "Father Leah, aren't you going to boil the water? My mummy is freezing." Cole was first taken aback before he smiled and said, "All right, I'll go boil the water. Aside from the topic, my babies, it's the end of the month. The tickets don't have to expire. Give them to me on account of how hard I worked to save them, yeah. Babies, today's update has ended." Chapter 928. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Jialyu's hand. "Jialyu, isn't he?" Jialyu smiled slyly and said, "I know." "You know?" Jialyu nodded and said, "I can tell from the way he looks at you. Daddy Leah would never stare at you with that kind of shifty gaze." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and pinched Jialyu's little nose. "Then why did you ask him to boil water?" Jialyu shrugged his shoulders and said, "It would be a waste not to make use of a coolie that was delivered to my doorstep." With that, he pulled Gu Mengmeng's little hand and walked into the house. As he walked, he said, "Let's go in first. If she really gets sick later, we will have to worry." Gu Mengmeng was pulled by Jialyu and Kanwu into the stone castle with one hand each. Hada followed behind Gu Mengmeng silently and turned to look at Qi Xian, who had walked over to Cole's side to help. Even though Qi Xian looked like a 17 or 18-year-old lad and he looked like a 6 or 7-year-old child. But he knew that it was his younger brother, a brother who was very close to the enemy. Elvis's ginger slices boiled water resurfaced and Gu Mengmeng drank 2 whole bowls of it before Elvis stopped. Although Jialyu had ordered Cole to boil the water, Qi Xian was actually the one who boiled the bathwater for Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng had no qualms about enjoying her son's care. At least it was more comfortable than the bathwater Cole boiled for her. The rooms on the second floor were Gu Mengmeng's bottom line. She would never allow Cole to step foot on the second floor. And Cole did not insist. He just sat beside the fire pit in the hall on the first floor and looked at the dancing flames, deep in thought. He felt that Gu Mengmeng was becoming more interesting. She had clearly tamed Leah and Elvis, but when they were by the stream, she was like a docile and harmless little rabbit, cozying up to those two fellows in a pitiful manner. She had the strength of a beast king. A single slap would have been enough to make these two fellows submit, but they had to swallow their anger and beg for mercy. Cole, who had witnessed everything from the shore, could clearly remember the surging feeling in his chest at that time. Jealousy, it was a unique kind of jealousy. He had never been so jealous of Leah before. Even when he was ignored by everyone and Leah was the center of attention, his jealousy was not as strong as now. No one in the entire beast world could compare to her gentle eyes. He really did want her. Just thinking about how that pair of eyes would one day be branded on his body without moving an inch, just thinking about it made him very excited. This night, Cole did not stay in the stone castle. Instead, he walked out after midnight. No one cared where he went. All they knew was that he had returned to the stone castle the next morning. Last night, a tribe was attacked by stray beasts. Not a single person in the tribe survived. The tribe's most beautiful female died in her own cave. She looked dispirited and messy, but her twisted expression did not look like she had been tortured. Instead, it looked like she was enjoying herself. Gu Mengmeng completely ignored Cole and allowed him to continue wasting air in front of her because of Qi Xian. The three little ones were still traumatized by yesterday's incident, so when they saw Gu Mengmeng return last night, they immediately told Burke that they would not look for him for the next few days. They wanted to accompany their mother well. Burke naturally did not force them. He only left after confirming that Gu Mengmeng was fine. After breakfast, Gu Mengmeng said that she wanted to visit Sandy. Elvis and Leah brought her and the three little ones over. Digression, Cole, did you notice? When Gu looks at others, her gaze is as gentle as water. Only when she looks at me, her gaze is as strong as wine. Chapter 929. Cole followed closely behind. Even though he was just a step away, he still seemed out of place. He would never be able to blend into their scenes, and could only follow them like a demon. Qi Xian followed beside Cole, and even though he belonged to the bright side, he still hid himself in the shadows. If not for that, Gu Mengmeng could have completely destroyed Cole. Qi Xian knew that his choice had caused trouble for his mother. He was very apologetic, but he did not regret it. Even if one day, his mother was sick of the shackles he had created and killed him, he would not regret it. After all, that evil person in everyone's eyes was the one who had woken him up from his long slumber, and trained him little by little when he could not even stand up due to his prolonged coma. Most of his memories were related to him. Having depended on each other for so long, Qi Xian had already treated Cole as the most important person in his life. Moreover, he was indebted to him. He could only repay this debt himself. When Gu Mengmeng arrived at Sandy's place, Bode had already prepared lunch. Elvis handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah, before bringing the three little ones with him to an empty space outside the tribe to begin their training. Gu Mengmeng felt that there was no need to rush. After all, Colin's hand had just been injured yesterday, shouldn't he rest for a few days? But Elvis and Colin both said that males were not so fragile, as long as Lee's splint was not removed, it would not be a big problem. Colin was more desperate than anyone else to raise his own abilities. After all, he was the strongest partner in Sandy's family. If he could be promoted again, the entire family's fighting power would rise by another level. Seeing that she could not stop them, Gu Mengmeng instructed Elvis to be careful and not to aggravate Colin's injuries. Sandy also told Colin not to be stubborn, and then let them leave. Cole did not leave. Instead, it was as if he did not understand Sandy's family's wariness and disgust, as well as Gu Mengmeng's disregard. He just followed Gu Mengmeng quietly, without saying or doing anything unnecessary. After having lunch at Sandy's place and chatting with her for a while, Gu Mengmeng prepared to return to the stone castle. After all, Sandy was pregnant and needed more rest. If she was here, it would be difficult for Sandy to relax and rest well, not to mention that Cole was following her. The moment she stepped out of Sandy's house, she felt a familiar beast pressure. Well, now, there were not many people who dared to release their beast pressure in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and jumped down from Lee's arms. She took 2 steps forward, and when she looked up, the huge snake head was already inches away from her. Gu Mengmeng smiled innocently with curved eyebrows, but she did not hold back at all when she struck. With a slap on the lower jaw of the snake, the entire snake was flipped over and fell backward. With a loud bang, the ground shook a few times. Gu Mengmeng walked over and stepped on Wabiai's tail. She glared at Wabiai like a female bandit. "Hey, little shit, you are asking for a beating again." Wabiai felt refreshed from the slap and his bones loosened up significantly. He tilted his head and transformed back into human form. Tutaying, He pushed Gu Mengmeng's foot away from his ankle and said, "What do you mean by asking for a beating? I'm here to challenge you." Chapter 930. Wabi-Ai ignored Gu Mengmeng's teasing. He dusted his hands and stood up. Then, he glanced at Cole behind Gu Mengmeng and raised his brows. Why did you bring all kinds of trash back home? This kind of trash, and a crippled stray beast at that. How could you swallow him? Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. Are you blind? Which eye of yours saw me wanting him? Wabi-Ai nodded with a "you're right" look and agreed with her. I think so too. With snakes setting your aesthetic standards, no matter what, you shouldn't be interested in this kind of defective product. Then what's wrong with him? He's sticking to you like glue. Doesn't your little wolf cub care about him? Little wolf cub, indeed, the 16-year-old Elvis could only be considered a little wolf cub in front of the 800-year-old Wabi-Ai. But she was already feeling very awkward. She had become an old cow at the age of 19 to eat Elvis. Yet, Wabi-Ai kept bringing up the issue of age to make things difficult for her. Gu Mengmeng pinched her brows and sighed. Little shit, I feel that I was too light with my slap just now. Why don't we go for another 300 rounds? What do you say? Wabi-Ai did not know that he had stepped into Gu Mengmeng's minefield by calling her a little wolf. He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Forget it, I'm used to being beaten up 300 times by you, so it's nothing much, but when your hand starts hurting, Snake will blame me for making you suffer." Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened. Gu Mengmeng grabbed Wabi-Ai's forearm with both hands. She looked up at him. But I really want to hit someone now. How do I break this? Actually, she wanted to grab his shoulder. But, the difference in height was really cruel and torturous. Wabi-Ai pointed at Cole behind Gu Mengmeng. Hit him. Isn't he a ready masochist? Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Cole. She thought that if she hit him, Gu Mengmeng might not be able to control herself and just slap him to death. But if she really slapped him to death, Qi Xian would definitely blame her. Then, she would really lose this son of hers. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. It's too disgusting to slap a cockroach with my bare hands. I can't bear to do it. Wabi-Ai laughed heartily and said, "Why does it sound like you hit me because you think highly of me? Should I be grateful?" Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement. But Wabi-Ai scoffed in disdain, before turning to walk back with Gu Mengmeng shoulder to shoulder. As they walked, he reported the situation of the Snake King Valley after the end of winter. In the past, with Snake around, no one dared to enter the Snake King Valley. And in the first winter after Snake left, some of the more daring orcs started plotting against the Snake King Valley. During winter, the snake beasts needed to hibernate and they were basically in a state where they were at the mercy of others. Hence those people sneaked into the Snake King Valley and found a few caves where the hibernating snake beasts lived. They wanted to eat the hibernating snake beasts to raise their own powers. Well, a few snake beasts did die, but those who sneaked in didn't make it out alive. Although the snake beast was in hibernation and could not actively attack, its venom was still present. After those fools ate the snake beast, they couldn't even take 3 steps before they bled from their 7 orifices and died on the spot. Chapter 931. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. You massacred their tribe? Wabi-Ai shook his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng as though she was a retard. If I had that much free time, I would have just massacred them. Why would I send the corpses? Gu Mengmeng agreed. Sending the corpses was a warning to them. She wanted to tell them that this was the consequence of attacking the Snake King Valley. If they were going to be killed, why would they send the corpses? Wasn't that the same as taking off one's pants to fart? Moreover, I came to look for you the moment winter ended. I went to Saint Nazir first but came to no avail. Your family's paralyzed tiger told me you were here and I rushed here from Saint Nazir. Look at the time, I don't have the time to go massacre some tribe. Wabi-Ai said confidently with a look of disdain. Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement. Then why was their tribe annihilated? Wabi-Ai laughed dryly. They were afraid that the Snake King Valley would take revenge on them, so they disbanded their tribe and joined other tribes. But strangely, none of them went to Saint Nazir or Sauter to seek refuge with you. Don't they know that I am no match for you and that being under you is the safest place? Gu Mengmeng shook her head with a chuckle. I am the saintess of the Snake King Valley. Seeking refuge with me, isn't that walking right into a trap? Wabi-I laughed. That's right, you are the real Demon King hiding behind the scenes. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes at Cole. She politely declined the title of Demon King. Not long after returning to the stone castle, Elvis brought his 3 sons back. Oakley came along with them as well. After Oakley entered, he first bowed to Gu Mengmeng. Then, he looked at Wabi-I. Great messenger, although Wabi-I is your friend, shouldn't stray beasts keep a low profile when entering Sauter? Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She looked at Cole. Why don't you care about him? Oakley's expression did not change. Be it Cole or Wabi-I, I can't stop them with my current abilities. But in any case, this is the messenger's tribe. Since we've come in, we shouldn't make a big fuss, right? Gu Mengmeng understood now. Although Cole was also a stray beast, he rarely appeared in public during his time in Sauter. Yesterday, he had been running around with Gu Mengmeng and was also wearing Li's face. But today, Wabi-I had barged in and used his main body to strut around. Come to think of it, the appearance of the 5th-level stray snake must have caused quite a lot of controversy in Sauter. Gu Mengmeng shrugged. Wabi-I is my friend. If it is not convenient for him to stay here, I will leave with him. Leave? Oakley frowned and said, Lord Messenger cannot leave for the time being. Oh. Gu Mengmeng frowned and said, since when did you decide where I should go? Oakley replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, I naturally don't dare to restrict the great messenger's freedom, it's just that, the people in the beast world have been in a state of panic recently. After knowing that the messenger is staying in Sauter temporarily, a few tribe leaders have already sent people over to seek an audience with you. To prevent unrest in the beast world, it was better for the great messenger to meet him. After all, the trouble was caused by the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng raised her brows. She instantly understood. Chapter 932. The meeting with the visiting tribe leaders was set for 10 days later. Gu Mengmeng had wanted to meet them in the meeting room. After all, it was a discussion and it should be more formal. But the management team led by Oakley had unanimously rejected the idea. The reason was, that stone tablet with the 36 stratagems carved on it was a sacred object worshipped by Sauter and could not be seen by outsiders. Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She had just casually memorized the text and her office had turned into an ancestral hall. Forget it, it's the same no matter where we meet. Gu Mengmeng did not insist and so Oakley arranged for the meeting to be held on the afternoon of the 10th day. A complete white tiger skin was laid on the deity's altar and on the back of the tiger skin was a high-backed stone chair. The stone chair was laid with a huge white rabbit skin. Gu Mengmeng sat lazily on the stone chair with her elbow propped against the back of the stone chair. She supported her chin with the back of her hand and looked down at the long wooden table that was hastily made below the deity's altar. There was a row of people sitting around the wooden table. Gu Mengmeng counted and there were 26 of them. They were all males in pairs. She guessed that they were the tribe leaders and witch doctors of the various tribes. Elvis and Leah stood on both sides of Gu Mengmeng with a faint, cold smile on their lips. The people sitting at this table were all old acquaintances. They had fought with Elvis when he was a vagabond, fallen into a well when Leah was in dire straits, killed each other when they were fighting for territory, and there were also a few from the tribes near Saint Nazir. Yeah, there were even more conflicts. To think that there would be a day when these people could sit at the same table quietly. This scene was really unique. Sitting on the high seat, Gu Mengmeng could clearly see the minute expressions on everyone's faces. Thanks to Wang Xiaoxin, even though they had tried their best to suppress their uneasiness, Gu Mengmeng could still tell that they were not confident about her taking in those tribesmen. They all knew that Gu Mengmeng had inherited all of Snake's abilities and memories, but who knew if she had also inherited his personality? He was a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and gave Oakley a look. Oakley, who was standing at the side of the altar, took a step forward and spoke first. Various leaders and witch doctors have come from afar. Oakley, as the city lord of Sauder, welcomes all of you. Actually, the people of the beast world were really not good at nor were they used to such elaborate formalities. As such, after Oakley finished his welcome speech, everyone looked at each other and did not know how to respond. Wabi leisurely walked out from the shade. Due to his identity, he did not go up to the altar. Instead, he stood beside Oakley and leaned against the edge of the altar. Before he could speak, the 26 people who were sitting at the original spot stood up as though someone had stepped on a power source. They looked at Wabi with a guarded stance. Wabi snorted in disdain. What's the point of saying such useless things? If you want the Snake King Valley to let you go, what do you intend to use in exchange? Everyone was taken aback, before instinctively looking at Gu Mengmeng. After all, she was the one with the highest authority here. Even Wabi had to act according to her wishes. Only when she gave the order would the final decision be made. Chapter 933. The 26 of them looked at each other. They all had something to say but didn't have the guts to do so. Elvis sneered. I've never seen you cower before when you were fighting for your lives, but now you sound like you're being strangled by someone. Did you come all the way here just to pretend to be mute? Elvis's words agitated the 26 of them. No matter where they came from, they were all the same. Provocation was the most unbearable. Otherwise, the Northeast's "what are you looking at" would not have become a popular phrase for a fight. One of the 26 looked up and spoke first. Mighty Messenger, we did take in some new tribesmen. But they are not the ones who went to ambush the Snake King Valley. They are innocent. Before Gu Mengmeng could speak, Leah whispered into her ear. The one who spoke is Leonard, the leader of the Zacharias tribe. He is a 4th-level tiger beast. The one standing beside him is called Nick. He is a witch doctor and a 2nd-level armadillo. They are quite far from Saint Nazir and have not had many encounters with us. But they are closer to Peter's territory. Yet, they have never had any females snatched from them. Clearly, they are very powerful. Gu Mengmeng nodded to indicate that she understood. Then, without any special expression on his face, he maintained a casual look and said, I'm innocent. What kind of place is the Snake King Valley? How can a few people withstand the harsh cold and find their way to the entrance in such a cold season? Would you believe me if I told you? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. The truth was, they didn't believe it. Not to mention finding the entrance, just venturing out during winter was a matter of life and death. Otherwise, why would winter be called the season of death? In this kind of weather, it was impossible to find the mysterious entrance. So, the only explanation was that they had planned this beforehand. They had already scouted out the path to the Snake King Valley and then lay in ambush nearby. They would wait for 3 to 5 days for the cold to descend, ensuring that all the snake beasts were hibernating before entering. And such an operation could not be carried out without external help. In other words, the few males who entered were the suicide squad of the tribe. If they succeeded, the tribe's power would increase greatly. And the Snake King Valley had tens of thousands of snakes. Who would know if a few were missing? If they failed, the few of them would die on the spot. The rest would just have to split up and say that they were innocent and they could stay out of this. To put it bluntly, it was a huge gamble. The price of victory or defeat was the rise of the tribe or the fall of the tribe. Regardless of the era, there were always gamblers. This gambler was not only the members of the Dare to Die team, but also everyone in their tribe. Gu Mengmeng was such a dazzling presence in the beast world that it was too easy to find her. Wasn't Fei Rui the best example? But everyone obviously knew that she was the sacred maiden of the Serpent King Valley, but not a single one of them came to inform her, wasn't it? Now that things have come to this, you want to use an excuse of innocent to settle the matter? Did he really treat Gu Mengmeng as a fool? The atmosphere instantly turned solemn. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see fear on the faces of the 26 people. It had nothing to do with whether she had revealed her Beast King's aura, it could only be said that they had a guilty conscience. Chapter 934. The 26 of them looked at each other, as if they were weighing whether their sincerity was sufficient. The first to speak was always more stressful. The atmosphere instantly became rather stifling. Nothing had happened and Gu Mengmeng was very sure that everyone present, including herself, was not emitting any pressure. But the atmosphere was like the examination hall during the high school examinations, quiet and strange. Occasionally, a gust of wind blew past, but it was as if it was plucking at the taut heartstrings, causing them to vibrate intensely, as if they could snap at any time. I am Hanston, the leader of Franks, a third-level rhinoceros orc. One of them stood out and spoke first. He had a head of gray short hair that did not look old but was extremely fashionable. He was only wearing a leopard print hide, revealing his well-built body. His face was suspiciously dark red as he stared straight at Gu Mengmeng, as if trying to convey a sense of confidence. His fists were clenched tightly by his sides, as if he was not used to such an occasion. I am willing to offer all my loyalty to the messenger and become your partner. This way, Franks will be like Saint Nazir, a tribe belonging to the great messenger. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. Before she could react, the person standing beside Hanston also stood out and said, I am Joshua, the witch doctor of Franks, a first-level orc from the ape tribe. I am willing to offer my loyalty to the great messenger together with the leader, representing that Franks will completely submit to the great messenger without any disloyalty. Gu Mengmeng was just about to wave her hands to say there was no need, when Leah laughed softly. That laughter was cold and carried a hint of sarcasm. A first-level orc dares to propose a mating request to the messenger of the beast deity. Huh, are you really not afraid of blaspheming the beast deity? Joshua's face turned red from Lee's words, but he refused to lower his head. He continued to look straight at Leah and said, I know I am not strong enough, but I will work hard to improve myself and become a male worthy of the great messenger. Perhaps the great envoy doesn't remember me, but I remember the great envoy. From the first time I saw the great messenger, I have already deeply admired you. Please give me a chance to become your tribesman. Gu Mengmeng. When did she attract such a peach blossom? Why did she not have any impression of him? Lord Envoy. Joshua was not discouraged. Although he was the only first-level orc among everyone present, he was still too weak compared to the competitors who did not even have the right to enter the arena, much less those perverts around Gu Mengmeng. But even so, he did not want to give up the chance to confess, because he really liked Gu Mengmeng. So Joshua took a step forward and continued, Francis and Saint Nazir share a border. If the great messenger accepts us, we are willing to give up the name of Francis and integrate into the Saint Nazir tribe. In that case, Saint Nazir's territory would at least double. Furthermore, even though Francis does not have as many females as Saint Nazir, we have 2 complete females and 5 half-orc females. There are 7 4th-level males and 29 3rd-level males in the tribe. These are all precious resources, and we are willing to offer them all to the great messenger without reservation. Chapter 935. Ha! Elvis, who had remained silent all this while, suddenly laughed. The bloodlust and coldness that had not been shown for a long time permeated every cell in the air. Although it was just a simple sound, it sent chills down everyone's spines. They were as silent as cicadas in winter, not daring to say another word. They just looked at Elvis quietly, waiting for him to continue. After all, this Saint Nazir tribe leader and the witch doctor beside him had already swept through many tribes when they were 3rd level. Relying on their perfect teamwork and reckless fighting style, they had forced many people to suffer losses from them. After the arrival of the messenger of the beast deity, these 2 seemed to have disappeared without a trace and did not commit any bloody killings anymore. However, their past, great achievements were still fresh in people's memories. Today, one of them was a 5th level and the other a 4th level. That made them even more of a Yama that no one dared to provoke. Elvis stretched his neck to the left. Those who were familiar with him knew that this was a sign that he was about to attack. This time, no one dared to speak. If Saint Nazir wants territory, we don't need Xiao Meng to mate. Elvis took half a step forward, like a god of war looking down on everyone. The sunlight shone on his face, but no one dared to lift their heads to look at his facial features. They could only feel their bodies trembling and crazily wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Seizing by force is my way of doing things. A faint smile had already appeared on Li's face. That smile was one that everyone was all too familiar with. Before he met Gu Mengmeng, how many years had this smile been on his face? The more angered he was to the point of wanting to kill someone, the more elegant and charming his smile would be. His voice was also filled with coldness. That light sentence made the atmosphere of the entire scene drop by quite a bit. Has Francis' water source problem been solved? If I don't give you water during this dry season, I wonder how long you guys can last. Leah said these words with a concerned expression, stabbing at the weakest spot of the other party with all his might. Every stab did not draw blood, but he had a firm grasp on the other party's lifeline. When your tribesmen either leave or die due to lack of water, do you think there will be anyone who dares to fight with Saint Nazir for France's current territory? Hanston and Joshua were both speechless. Yes, they had no water. In the past, it was still alright when everyone was in a drought, but last year, Saint Nazir started to release water for everyone. That was the happiest dry season that Frank had experienced in 1,000 years. If Leah cut off Francis' water supply, the people in the tribe would definitely leave, because as long as they went to another tribe, they would be able to drink the water provided by Saint Nazir again. By then, Franks would be doomed. Naturally, no one would dare to fight with Saint Nazir for the territory. After all, who wouldn't be afraid that the next tribe to have their water cut off? Li's gaze swept across the crowd below the stage and he chuckled. Some tribes lack water, some lack food, some tribes' last female has already been dead for half a year, some tribes' territories have been used by the stray beasts as their food source during the winter season all year round, suffering attacks year after year without any ability to retaliate. TSK, TSK, TSK. Aren't you ashamed to use such a family as dowry to talk about mating with my Meng Meng? Li's words silenced the others who had wanted to mention mating. No one dared to step forward. Chapter 936. Soul of the Forest. Gu Mengmeng savored these 4 words and chuckled. Of course I can. I have already said that I will grant a wish to anyone who can help me obtain the 5 treasures. If your wish is for me to not pursue the matter, I can agree to it now. All right, it's a deal. Leonard bowed to Gu Mengmeng and said, then, I will go back to make some preparations and await the great messenger's arrival at Zacharias. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and nodded in agreement. Then, Leonard and Nick turned to leave. Gu Mengmeng looked at the other 24 people. They were all clearly stunned by the soul of the forest's appearance. Compared to the soul of the forest, their sincerity clearly did not carry enough weight. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to make things difficult for them, so she stretched and stood up. I am tired. You and, great messenger, please go and rest first. I will handle the remaining matters and give you and Wabi a satisfactory reply. Oakley spoke first. Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment and didn't reject him. She only responded with a before allowing Elvis to carry her away. Wabi had no patience for such friendly negotiations. If Gu Mengmeng wasn't sitting here, he wouldn't have bothered to listen to their nonsense. Now that Gu Mengmeng had left, he naturally followed suit. Back at the stone castle, Leah said to Elvis, Zacharias is near the stray beast base camp. We should stay at the stray beast base camp, in case there are any overconfident fellows trying to impress Mengmeng with their presence. Elvis nodded. That's what I thought too. Gu Mengmeng asked Wabi, little shit, are you still going to accompany me this time? Wabi nodded. The previous kiss of the ocean was filled with poisonous fog and swamps. Who knows what will happen this time? If I know you are going to take the risk, I will definitely accompany you. Otherwise, how am I going to answer to him if anything happens to you? Gu Mengmeng chuckled and asked, but don't you have to return to the Snake King Valley to explain what happened this time? After all, this is the first time in 1,000 years that an outsider has infiltrated the valley and killed the people of the Snake King Valley. No matter what, this is a big matter. Wabi-Eye stared coldly at Gu Mengmeng. He seemed to have thought for a moment before nodding his head lazily in annoyance. Yeah, I have to go back and inform them. Gu Mengmeng said, then you should go and settle the matters of the Snake King Valley first. After all, the Snake King Valley and Zacharias are not in the same direction. Wabi-Eye rolled his eyes and rapped Gu Mengmeng's head. Those who want to help you are all on the way. Those who value you are not busy day or night. Gu Mengmeng was really touched by Wabi-Eye. She pounced forward and hugged him, looking up at him. Little shit, you have really become intelligent. You can even speak like a human, scram. Wabi-Eye roared. I'm kind enough to be your bodyguard. How dare you say that about me? Gu Mengmeng giggled. All right. Don't be angry. I know you are a warm guy. Wabi-Eye squinted at Gu Mengmeng for 2 seconds. Then, he roared, don't think that I don't know you are scolding me in a roundabout way just because you are smiling. A warm guy is definitely not saying anything nice. Can't you say anything nice about me? Gu Mengmeng shrugged helplessly. After all, a warm guy, in the eyes of males was equivalent to a green tea bitch, in the eyes of females. So Wabi-Eye's words were not wrong. But little shit, Gu Mengmeng was sincerely praising you this time. Aside from the topic, Wabi-Eye, Gu Mengmeng, I treat you as a friend. Why are you treating me as a warm guy? Gu Mengmeng shrugged helplessly. I am really not scolding you this time, why don't you believe me? Chapter 937. In the meeting room, Cole sat casually and lazily on the chair that belonged to Gu Mengmeng. His large hands gently caressed the beast's skin on the back of the chair, with a faint smile on his lips. Oakley stood at the spot that belonged to him at the bottom of the stairs. No matter if it was Gu Mengmeng or Cole sitting on the stone chair, he would still stand there, no difference. You did very well, I am very satisfied. As a reward, once Gu leaves this place, you can see your bloom. Cole's gaze lingered on the armrest of the stone chair, as if he could see Gu Mengmeng's adorable look when she used her elbow to support herself in boredom. His lips curled up slightly, and even Oakley became more pleasing to the eye. You don't have to look so glum, I did not ask you to do anything evil. I just want you to put in more effort when you are assisting Gu. By pushing you to the peak of power, you will be able to protect that little snake of yours better, right? Oakley did not have any expression on his face. He tried his best to look unperturbed. He knew that Cole was too good at manipulating people's hearts. He could not reveal more information to Cole. But, he tried his best to control his expression, but neglected the fact that the veins on his tightly clenched fists were popping out. How could anyone believe the nonchalance on his face? Cole did not expose him, he just enjoyed Oakley's desperate stubbornness. He chuckled, as if he was a cat playing with a mouse. I have one thing I don't understand. Oakley looked up at Cole. You spent so much effort to lure the mighty messenger to solder, just to pretend to be Leah for a day? Cole was in an extremely good mood when he thought of the day he pretended to be Leah. His Gu did not confuse him with that useless brother, she saw through him with one look. Rather than saying that he pretended to be Leah that day, it would be better to say that it was the day he openly stayed by Gu's side. Although Gu ignored him coldly, they still shared many memories, didn't they? Thinking of this, Cole's mood became even better. Hence, he answered Oakley's question exceptionally generously. Don't you feel that when the person you like comes to your side on his own accord, it is a joyous thing? Gu would gradually get used to living with me. If I suddenly disappeared one day, she wouldn't be used to it. So, I have to be the most special person in her life. Since that's the case, you're letting her go just like that? Oakley was referring to the search for the soul of the forest. Cole's gaze deepened and the smile on his lips deepened. I want to be her savior, the only one she can rely on in hell. So the prerequisite was that, she had to fall into hell first. If there is no hell, I can only create one for her. Hope slowly accumulates, and in the blink of an eye, it is shattered. I can almost imagine her look of despair. Heh, how distressing. Cole said those cruel words with a look of enjoyment. His entire body was emitting an evil aura, causing Oakley to frown tightly. All right, you just have to work hard for Agu and push Sauter to the top of the world. I want my Agu to stand at the top of the world and trample everything under her feet. And you must be her stepping stone. Cole stood up and walked towards Oakley step by step. He placed his hand on Oakley's shoulder and exerted a little force, causing Oakley to kneel down at his feet. Cole seemed to be very satisfied as his lips curled into a smile. As long as you are loyal to Agu, you and your little snake will be fine. Otherwise, I will not forgive anyone who causes trouble for Agu. In this world, I am the only one who can make her unhappy. Aside from the topic, let's talk about a joke. You the Great was controlling the flood. He passed by the house 3 times but did not enter. Did you think that nothing would happen if he did not enter the house? Heh heh, such a naive little cutie. Many things could happen without entering the house. You the Great's wife looked forward to her husband's return every day. In the end, she became a rock waiting for her husband, and Sun Wukong jumped out from the cracks of the rock. You the Great used the ultimate magical weapon, the godly sea calming needle, to control the flood. And the godly sea calming needle was also known as the golden cudgel. Only Sun Wukong could wield the golden cudgel, and it only listened to Sun Wukong. From this, one could conclude that You the Great was Sun Wukong's father. Chapter 938. Before Gu Mengmeng left, she went to see Sandy. Sandy's tummy was getting bigger by the day and it was getting more and more inconvenient for her to move around. Gu Mengmeng had wanted to wait for Sandy to finish giving birth before setting off, but it would be the dry season by then and any movement would become torture for Wabi. He had to return to the Snake King Valley to recuperate. Although she really didn't need a bodyguard now as no one could do anything to her even if she ran around on her own. But towards Wabi, apart from the friendship between friends, she also felt a sense of guilt. After all, she was the one who had snatched away the most important person he had relied on for 800 years. So she had the responsibility to comfort his boring life. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng had already decided that she would never abandon the 3 little ones. Thinking back to the incident at the bottom of the ocean, Gu Mengmeng felt more at ease with Wabi by her side. After all, if anything happened, Elvis would definitely protect her first. By then, there would be a gap in the safety of the 3 little ones and it would be easy for others to take advantage of it. So Wabi could fill this gap with his presence. Moreover, Cole had already promised not to find trouble with Sandy, so Gu Mengmeng decided not to wait for Sandy to give birth. She would look for the soul of the forest now. It would be best if she could finish it quickly and return before Sandy gave birth. Once Sandy heard that Gu Mengmeng was leaving, she hugged Gu Mengmeng and started crying. Gu Mengmeng knew that a pregnant woman's emotions would fluctuate greatly, so she patiently coaxed Sandy for a long time. In the end, she used her trump card and promised to bring back some delicious fruits for her. Sandy, the little foodie, blinked her big bright eyes and pushed Gu Mengmeng out of the door, saying, "Come back quickly." Once they were out of Sauter, Gu Mengmeng remained in Elvis's arms. Shaking her head in exasperation, Gu Mengmeng said, "Sigh, I feel very sad now." Elvis looked at her smiling face and could not feel any sadness at all, but he still gave her face. Expressing his inquiry. Gu Mengmeng said, "Sandy is my best friend, but in her eyes, I am not even comparable to a fruit. At first, she hugged me tightly and refused to let go. But once she heard that there was food, she actually pushed me out. I am starting to doubt my own worth. Am I not even comparable to a fruit?" Elvis chuckled. He could not understand the friendship between females. Moreover, he was unwilling to waste time thinking about what other females were thinking, so he just kissed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "You are the most precious, nothing can be compared to you." Gu Mengmeng smiled sweetly and snuggled into Elvis's arms. Wabi cleared his throat and inched closer to Gu Mengmeng. He said awkwardly, have you gone to see your father recently? Did you ask me anything? Gu Mengmeng knew that Wabi was asking about sending her to Snake's side, so she nodded and said, yeah, I went to ask once after we parted ways, but my father's attitude was I can't tell you. It's not the right time to switch the power source yet, just wait a little longer. Anyway, I still remember your request, I will help you ask whenever I see my father. Wabi pursed his lips and looked at Gu Mengmeng in silence for a long while. Then, he said, you are unfilial. Ah. Gu Mengmeng looked at Wabi in bewilderment. She did not know where his conclusion came from. Wabi said, you could only stay in the cave for the entire winter without doing anything, yet you only went to see your father once. If you are not unfilial, then what is? Digression. Based on the above argument, we can continue to elaborate. There is a joke on the internet about Sun Wukong saying that monkeys are monkeys after all. After staying in the immortal peach garden, the 7 fairies only went to eat peaches. However, have you all forgotten that the 7 fairies are the same color as the Calabash brothers, and there are exactly 7 of them? After the 7 Calabash brothers fused together, they became a stone mountain, and Sun Wukong jumped out from the cracks in the stone. So the conclusion is that Sun Wukong is the Calabash brothers' father. Then, the Calabash brothers' father is Sun Wukong, Sun Wukong's father is Yu the Great. Do you still think that it was a coincidence that the old man sowed the seeds of the Calabash brothers? Chapter 939. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. What else could she not understand? Wabi merely wanted her to visit the beast deity a few more times and ask him when he could send him to Snake's side. But understanding was one thing. Gu Mengmeng felt that when Wabi came knocking on her door, she would feel uncomfortable if she didn't rebuke him. So he cleared his throat and said, Sigh, my old man is the Lord Beast God, he must be very busy. Do you think everyone in the world is as idle as you? Your greatest joy is looking for a beating, and your greatest skill is pretending to be shit? You. Wabi was rendered speechless by Gu Mengmeng's retort. He couldn't think of any rebuttal and just waved his hands. Humph, you are unfilial anyway. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and said, Then tell me, how many times have you accompanied your father in the past 800 years? If you're more than me, I'll admit that you're filial. Wabi looked at Gu Mengmeng as though she was an idiot. Why should I be filial? Gu Mengmeng snorted. You're not filial yourself and you're asking me to be filial? Wabi nodded sincerely and said, Yes, my lack of filial piety has not affected you. But your lack of filial piety has affected me. You are so shameless and self-righteous. Gu Mengmeng looked at Wabi with an amused and angry expression. Wabi didn't mind. He shrugged his shoulders and said, It's still a few days before we reach Zacharias. Since there's nothing much to do, go to sleep. Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and said, This is my first time bringing my son out, how can I sleep? I'm not sleeping. Wabi narrowed his eyes and said with a dark face, Are you going to sleep or not? If you don't sleep, I'll eat your son. Gu Mengmeng gave him a, I don't believe you, smile and said, Go ahead and eat them. After you eat them, I will tell Snake that you bullied me and forced me into a dead end. Let's see how you will face him in the future. Aren't you shameless? Wabi pointed at Gu Mengmeng's nose and stomped his foot. But Gu Mengmeng smiled like the cute and charming antagonist in Pokemon, Team Rocket. Ha ha ha, don't you know? Mr. Kong had said many years ago that only women and vile people were difficult to raise. A woman's shamelessness is also a kind of charm. Wabi gritted his teeth, wishing he could strangle Gu Mengmeng to death. He opened and closed his hands around Gu Mengmeng's neck, but he could not bring himself to strangle it. Gu Mengmeng was completely unafraid of Wabi's threat. Not only did she not hide, she even deliberately stuck out her neck and asked with a grin, Are you going to pinch me or not? If you want to pinch me, you have to be quick. It's tiring to stretch like this. Wabi's face turned green with anger. Shaking his hands, he straightened his neck and said, You think I'll do it just because you want me to? How embarrassing would that be for me? Gu Mengmeng laughed heartily and patted Wabi's shoulder. Wabi was sent flying far away and only came to a stop after flying 7 to 8 steps. On the other hand, Gu Mengmeng did not feel any sense of guilt from beating someone up. She just smiled and dusted off her hands, saying, "Little shit is really different after becoming a demon. He even knows how to save his face." Ha ha ha. Gu Meng. Wabi rolled to his feet and chased after her. He raised his hand to hit Gu Mengmeng, but Gu Mengmeng just smiled at him with a "hit me if you have the guts" attitude. Wabi was so angry that he swung his fists at the air, but ultimately did not land a punch on Gu Mengmeng. Initially, Elvis would still guard against Wabi's mischief, fearing that Gu Mengmeng would really attack her. But after so many times, Elvis no longer dared to even lift his eyelids at Wabi. He just focused on watching Gu Mengmeng pranking him, his face filled with adoration. Digression. Chapter 940. It was the first time the three little ones had gone on such a long journey with Gu Mengmeng, and they could not control their excitement. They often ran far away before running back. They were drenched in sweat but never tired. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng while Wabi kept arguing with her. So Leah was in charge of watching over the three little ones in case anything happened to them. This family was exceptionally harmonious. During dinner, Elvis accompanied Gu Mengmeng while Leah prepared the cooking utensils. Wabi went hunting and the three little ones insisted on tagging along. Wabi did not reject them. When they returned, the three little ones became Wabi's lobbyists. They pestered Gu Mengmeng to go to sleep and said how pitiful Wabi was. Gu Mengmeng felt rather helpless. She hugged Kanwu, who was in her arms, and asked, "But if Mummy falls asleep, it will be at least another 2 to 3 days. Then I will miss out on admiring the scenery along the way with you guys." Kanwu shook his head. He was not as eloquent as Jiaoyu and could not come up with all sorts of high-sounding excuses. He could only plead, "Mummy, just sleep, sleep." Jiaoyu hung onto Gu Mengmeng's arm and shook her vigorously. "Mummy, we are already very happy that you are willing to bring us along. As long as we can accompany Mummy, all the scenery will be beautiful and pleasant. Moreover, we don't know what kind of danger we will encounter on this trip to find the soul of the forest. You should at least go and greet Grandpa in advance and see if Grandpa has any other cheats he can give you. Just in case you are caught unprepared." Gu Mengmeng really did not know what benefits Wabi had given to the three little ones for them to speak up for him so wholeheartedly. But Jiaoyu's words made sense. The kiss of the beast deity that her lonely father had given her had been a huge part of the success of her previous trip to find the kiss of the ocean. Otherwise, she would be a useless baby the moment she entered the water. Not to mention fighting, even staying alive would be a problem. This time, she did not know what she was going to face. Perhaps she should really go and get some pocket money. Heaving a sigh of relief, Gu Mengmeng nodded. "All right, I understand. Mummy will go and ask Grandpa if there is anything I need to take note of. But while I am going to look for Grandpa, the three of you must behave yourselves. Don't make Father Beast and Father Leah angry, understand?" Jiaoyu nodded heavily and said, "Mother, don't worry. We are not fools and will not provoke a lunatic." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and asked the heavens speechlessly, "Can the image of a husband in his son's heart still be salvaged?" Elvis did not seem to take Jiaoyu's words to heart. No, it was not as if he really did not take it to heart. In this world, he only cared about how Gu Mengmeng saw and thought of him. As for the others, even if they were his biological sons, he did not care. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and said, "Hubby, after dinner, I'll accompany my lonely old man to watch television. Also, ask him about the soul of the forest." Elvis caressed Gu Mengmeng's little head and kissed the top of her head. His voice was mellow and filled with affection. Like a cello playing, it was melodious and full of charm. "Eat more for dinner. Leave the rest to me." "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng nodded and snuggled deeper into Elvis's arms. Chapter 941. The white fog dispersed, revealing a two-seater wooden chair in the shade. The beast deity sat there with his eyes closed and his head raised, just like an artistic youth sunbathing in the park. Gu Mengmeng felt very awkward at first to call him daddy when facing such a face, but as time went by, she got used to it. Daddy, Gu Mengmeng sat beside the beast deity and smiled at him. The beast deity seemed to have known that Gu Mengmeng was back and answered in a daze, my daughter is back. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at the beast deity and asked, you look very tired. The beast deity smiled and shook his head, saying, nothing much, I just went to listen to the holy teachings. In the words of your world, it's called a meeting and listening to the leader's speech. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, then you should be tired. It's nothing, having my daughter watching television with me is enough to relieve my tiredness. With that, he smiled and raised his hand to wave, but suddenly stopped and said, I will give you your pocket money after watching television. Gu Mengmeng really felt that she was an unfilial daughter. It seemed like she did not even need to say anything for the lonely old man in her house to know that she was back to live off his parents. In the future, should she come back to visit when she was free? After all, she had called him daddy for so long, did she really want to be a strawberry who only returned home when she was short of money? The beast deity nodded and then waved his hand, dispersing the white fog in front of them. The scene was the canteen of Gu Mengmeng's previous university. Snake pulled Gu Mengmeng to sit by the window in the canteen and the two of them faced the window and sat side by side. This place was originally a long table for 4 people to sit at, but Snakel used his privileges to mark it out as his exclusive dining spot. Naturally, the food he ate was not the same as the cafeteria's cafeteria, but exquisite dishes prepared by a professional chef in a separate kitchen. Gu Mengmeng was speechless and turned to look at Snake, asking, you don't even eat the canteen's food, why did you come to the canteen? You can just go to the canteen outside to eat. Snakel chuckled as he elegantly used his left hand to place the food in front of him into his mouth. He chewed and swallowed before replying to Gu Mengmeng's question, this is the fastest way to let everyone know you belong to me. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at her left hand which was still in Snake's grasp. Let go of me first. Snake raised an eyebrow and asked, why? It's not convenient to eat like this. Snake asked, don't you always use your right hand? Gu Mengmeng looked at the clock on the wall. In less than 5 minutes, there would be students coming in one after another to eat. She would not be able to explain herself if she was held by Snake like this. She tried to shake him off, but Snake's hand was like an iron clamp, not moving an inch. Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to use a softer approach. I was afraid that it would be inconvenient for you. Snake chuckled and raised the chopsticks in his left hand. I have been using my left hand to handle many things since young, such as eating, writing, just so that my right hand can be free to do more important things, such as holding your hand. Gu Mengmeng's face flushed red. Her blood rushed to the top of her head from Snake's serious sweet talk. Chapter 942. Snake didn't let go. Instead, he leaned closer to Gu Mengmeng and admired her blushing face with narrowed eyes. You eat and live with me, go to school and go home with me every day. Who would believe that you aren't my girlfriend? Moreover, I stood up for you so openly today. I'm afraid it's too late for you to say that we are just boss and subordinate now. Gu Mengmeng was speechless for a moment. Snake continued. Moreover, you have the obligation to keep my identity as the CEO of Monster a secret and take care of me. What else is more suitable than being my girlfriend? Instead of explaining and making things worse, why not just acknowledge this identity? Isn't that better? Moreover, the love letter you sent me yesterday morning must have already spread throughout the entire school. Confessing yesterday and dumping me today, TSK, Tu Meng, aren't you too fickle? Gu Mengmeng's face was extremely red. She didn't know if it was because she was angry or because Snake was leaning too close to her. She shifted her body backwards and fell onto the ground. Looking up, her eyes were filled with tears. She didn't know if it was from pain or grievance. When I signed the contract, I clearly said that I am doing an internship. It's not business time when school is in session. You can't force me to pretend to be a couple with you in school." Seeing her fall made Snake's heart ache. He pulled her back into his arms with a huge hand. With a gloomy expression, he said, "Who said we are going to pretend to be a couple? I really want you to be my girlfriend." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "I refuse. I don't like you." "Say that again." Snake's face darkened. His entire body emitted an intense pressure. He was obviously angered by Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng wanted to hide even more, but Snake refused to give her any space to hide. "If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been involved in those weird scandals. Although I am poor, I have always been a pure and innocent girl. Because of you, everyone in school is now saying that I am a concubine. I beg you, don't harm me anymore. Can you just pretend that you don't know me in school?" No. He didn't want to be apart from her for even a second. He would feel as if he had lost her the moment he did not see her. Pretending not to know each other in school? Then let's just tear down the school. There's no point in the school's existence. Gu Mengmeng could already vaguely hear people queuing outside the canteen. Once the doors opened, everyone would see her and Snake. Panicking, Gu Mengmeng blurted out, "Then I will resign. I quit." Snake's face darkened even further. "Can you afford the penalty fee?" Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and said, "At most, I will sell my kidney. I will definitely compensate you for the breach of contract." Hearing that she was willing to hurt herself just to leave him, Snake was so angry that his teeth were itching. But even so, he still controlled his strength in his hand, not willing to hurt her in the slightest. "Don't pretend to be a couple. In school, I'm your pursuer." "This is the last concession," Snake said through clenched teeth. "If it's a pursuer, I can reject him, right?" Chapter 943. Snake gritted his teeth and said, "I can let go, but if you dare to run, I will immediately use the school's broadcast system to announce that we are cohabiting, and provide the high-definition surveillance footage of us from yesterday afternoon to this morning." After saying that, Snake then tried to let go. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng really did not want to run, Snake could not help but shake his head in exasperation. Whether it was in the beast world or here, he always had to threaten her with something before she would obediently stay by his side. He could give her the best, so why couldn't she stay by his side and enjoy his love? Why did she have to push him away? "Sigh, sit down." Snake pointed to the seat beside him. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to turn around and leave, but firstly, she did not dare to cut a kidney to pay for the breach of contract, and secondly, she was really afraid that Snake would send out the surveillance footage. Everything else was fine, but the scene of her helping him shave his beard in the washroom yesterday was too ambiguous, and it would be hard for others to explain themselves if they saw it. So Gu Mengmeng lowered her noble head to reality, and followed Snake's instructions to sit beside him, but half of her butt was suspended in the air. Anyway, she just wanted to try her best to stay as far away from him as possible. Snake was also very helpless against this situation. He knew that his aggressiveness had scared her, but he had already waited long enough. Ever since he came to this world, he had been suppressing the urge to tie her up and imprison her by his side every minute and second. He really could not suppress it any longer now. The closer he was to her, the more he wanted to own her. The door of the cafeteria was pushed open, and a fierce battle over the popular dishes unfolded. However, the flames of war did not spread to their small table. There were no bodyguards or isolation belts, but no one dared to approach here. It was probably the first time the canteen was so quiet since it was opened. Everyone's gazes landed on them, as if countless X-rays were shining on them, and they could see even more clearly than when they were naked. "Are you done eating? If you are, then leave quickly." Gu Mengmeng really could not hold it in any longer. Snake glanced sideways, frowned and asked, "Is my face not good enough?" "Ah." Gu Mengmeng was confused, not understanding what Snake meant. Snake asked again, "My figure is not good?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head instinctively. She still remembered how this fellow had purposely changed his clothes in front of her this morning. Although he had only changed into a shirt, his 8-pack and clear mermaid lines were unforgettable to Gu Mengmeng, and she almost had a nosebleed. Seeing Gu Mengmeng shaking her head, not only was Snake not happy, he became even more melancholic. Then is it because my family background is not good enough? Not rich enough or powerful enough? He was the CEO of Monsieur, and he had to clear the entire place just to go shopping. Yesterday, he had spent around 2 million on clothes alone. Was he not rich enough? How would Gu Mengmeng, who had sold herself for a salary of 4,500 a month, feel? As for power, Gu Mengmeng did not know how much power Snake had, but just by looking at the attitude of the principal and the management towards him today, Gu Mengmeng could only shake her head again, her expression a little wooden. Snake's frown deepened as he turned around to face Gu Mengmeng. Then what's wrong with me? Why don't you like me? Chapter 944. Snake laughed coldly and said, "No? If you didn't, then why are you unwilling to admit that you are my girlfriend?" Gu Mengmeng shifted her upper body backwards in an instinctive move and said, "I am not your girlfriend to begin with, how can I admit it?" Snake was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would fall down again and wanted to reach out to hug her, but seeing her guarded expression, he could only retract his hand and said, "Do you want to sit properly or do you want me to carry you? Choose." Gu Mengmeng pushed Snake and said, "Then don't lean over." Snake gritted his teeth and returned to his original position. He even purposely distanced himself and glared at Gu Mengmeng. "See, and you still say you don't despise me?" Gu Mengmeng sat up obediently and used her chopsticks to poke at the spaghetti on the plate. She did not dare to look at Snake anymore. This fellow's presence was too strong and it made her heart beat erratically. "I'm not despising you, I just don't like this feeling." Snake smiled and said, "I don't like it." She was referring to the difference in reality. He was a star in the sky, only to be looked up to and worshipped. And she was just a weed on the ground, for anyone to trample on. Humans could have dreams. But there should be a limit to dreams. Once it exceeded that limit, it would no longer be a dream, but a delusion. Gu Mengmeng did not hate Snake, and it was not that he was not good enough. On the contrary, it was because he was too good, so good that he was perfect and flawless. He was so good that even in her dreams, she did not dare to think about it. To her, it was impossible for Snake to like her. At most, it could be that he had eaten too many delicacies and wanted to try the feeling of eating leftovers. And Gu Mengmeng knew that she could not afford to play this game. But Snake did not know about Gu Mengmeng's concerns. He thought that she was referring to the pressure of announcing their relationship in public when she said she did not like this feeling. Snake sighed. He was also very troubled. In the memories he had fused from Gu Mengmeng's mind, there was clearly a scene where a domineering CEO publicly announced that he and the female lead of Cinderella were lovers. Moreover, she had an intense discussion with her roommates, and the final conclusion was that the boy who dared to introduce you to everyone and openly admitted your relationship was the boy who truly loved you. In order to satisfy her girlish heart, he didn't mind the trouble of setting up Monsieur Corporation, just to fulfill her dream of writing, "Overbearing President falls in love with me." But, why was her reaction different from what she had said before? Back then, she clearly said that if she was the female lead, she would definitely be so touched that she would propose to the male lead on the spot. Snake frowned and seriously tried to recall which part of the plan went wrong. The moment Snake fell into deep thought, the pressure emanating from his body became even more obvious. Not only was the canteen quiet, some people even started to skip their meals and slipped away, unable to withstand the pressure. Gu Mengmeng sniffled and also felt very uncomfortable, so she forced a topic and said, "You are clearly not a mute. Why didn't you open your mouth to speak in the past? Everyone thought you were a mute." Chapter 945. Gu Mengmeng stared blankly at Snake and was stunned for 3 seconds. When she finally reacted to what Snake had just done, her face turned as red as a tomato. Snake looked at her bashful look with a gentle gaze. He raised his palm and said, "Tu Meng. Give me your hand and I will answer your question. Gu Mengmeng's brain was in a rush and she had no time to think before she placed her hand into Snake's palm. Snake retracted his fingers and smiled. He liked it when Gu Mengmeng blushed because of him. She was not immune to him, nor did she dislike him. She was just resistant. Resistant for an unknown reason. It was all right. He had the confidence to break through her resistance. She was his and could only be his. Holding onto Gu Mengmeng's little hand, Snakel's dark green eyes reflected the sunlight. Tiny light spots shone on Gu Mengmeng's face. His voice was like a gentle spring breeze caressing one's heart, making one's heart flutter. I don't want the best of me to be wasted by someone who is not important to me. Because everything I have is left for you. Gu Mengmeng's beautiful eyes widened in shock. She stammered and laughed dryly. You don't believe me? Snake raised his eyebrows and asked, in the past 19 years, other than you, I have never spoken to any other female, including my biological mother. The number of times I have spoken to men can be counted on one hand. Unless necessary, I will not speak to anyone else. Gu Mengmeng believed in this point. Otherwise, Snake would not have been treated as a mute after entering the school for more than a year. Snake held Gu Mengmeng's hand tightly and said, I have spoken more to you in the past 2 days than I have in the past 19 years combined. Gu Mengmeng was stunned and did not know how to react. Do you still not understand? I belong to you and only you. And what belongs to you cannot be wasted on anyone else. Gu Mengmeng did not even know how she finished her meal. Her entire brain was in a state of shutdown. Snake was probably just playing around, right? Then why was he so special to her? He was not lying to her that he never spoke to anyone else. Because not only did the people in school call him the mute school hunk, even when he participated in swimming competitions in the past, none of the reporters could pry a single word out of him. So the whole world thought he was a mute. But this mute suddenly spoke one day, and he only spoke to her. Just for fun, that he had planned for 19 years? Gu Mengmeng's heart was touched at that moment. Gu Mengmeng looked up at Snake against the sunlight. She bit her lower lip and asked, Do you like me? Snake laughed. He laughed at Gu Mengmeng for asking him such a silly question. But if it was something she wanted to hear, he was willing to repeat it 1,000 times a day. I like you. I like you so much that I want to give you the whole world, but it's not enough. I like you. I like you so much that I want to seal myself up and give you a pure me. I like you. I like you so much that even though I'm holding your hand right now, I still miss you. I like you. I like you to the point where I stand in a place where everyone's eyes are on me. Even if I feel uncomfortable, I still stand there, just so that you can look at me one more time. I like you. I like you so much that even if I have to abandon the whole world, I want to be your lone hero and protect you for the rest of your life. Then, what's your answer? When are you going to start liking me? Digression. Today's update came to an end with Snake's love speech attack. He gave Tu Meng some time to recover. Her heart was beating so fast that she could not reply. Chapter 946. It's not about whether you like me or not, but when did you start liking me? Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched. She thought to herself that this god, who usually looked as quiet and unreachable as the celebrities in the posters, actually had such a flirtatious and domineering nature. Why me? Gu Mengmeng did not understand. With Snake's status, any romantic love story should be between a prince and a princess. Why did it have to be her, who was so insignificant? Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng for a long time. Suddenly, he laughed and asked, Would you believe me if I said it was predestined? Huh? Gu Mengmeng was a little disappointed. What era was it now? Predestined? That was such an old joke. Snake chuckled softly and said, You are the only color in my eyes. Wherever you are, everything else will become the background and passers-by. Other than you, I can't see anyone else. Isn't this predestined? You are the only color in my eyes. Gu Mengmeng did not know why, but when she heard this sentence, her heart felt as if it was being poked by someone. She could not tell if it was pain or agitation. Anyway, it was an indescribable pain. So what's your answer? When do you intend to start liking me? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and wanted to retract her hand that was being held by Snake. But Snake did not allow her to do so. He just raised his brows and looked at her, as if he would not give up until she gave him an answer. Before yesterday, I did not even know you. I can't say that I like you. Gu Mengmeng said softly. Snake was helpless. Yeah, he had guarded her for 18 years, but she had never noticed his presence in the crowd. But you have already known me for 29 hours. My wealth, my power, my figure, haven't you checked them all? If there's anything you are not satisfied with, you can tell me. I will definitely satisfy you. Snake's face was serious and did not sound like he was joking at all. Although he didn't know what other people's love was like, there were too many women who wanted to throw themselves at him after just one look at him. If it wasn't for his ruthlessness, he would destroy the whole family of anyone who dared to throw themselves at him. He reckoned that by now, he would have been devoured by those women 800 times over. Other people said that they loved him to death at first sight, but his Tu Meng had already known him for 29 hours. Why didn't she love him? Snake expressed his anxiety and really wanted to crush something to calm his emotions. Every time this happened, he missed Wabi. He was free to be thrown, beaten, kicked. Gu Mengmeng's heart was even more anxious than Snakel's. Have you ever seen anyone say that they liked someone 29 hours after snatching someone's love letter? She did not know if others could do it, but she wailed in her heart, I can't do it. Looking at Gu Mengmeng's troubled expression, Snake suppressed the frustration in his heart. In any case, they had officially met, so the position by her side could only be his. He had endured the days of watching her from afar for more than 10 years. In the future, with her accompanying him, what else could he not wait for? With one hand holding Gu Mengmeng's little hand and the other lifting her chin, Snake stared into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and said word by word, you can slowly fall in love with me, I can wait. But remember, in this lifetime, you only have one choice, which is to like me. Off topic. Chapter 947. Alright, accompany me to the club after you're done eating. Snake never let go of Gu Mengmeng's hand. Gu Mengmeng wanted to retract her hand a few times, but was frightened by Snake's cold stare. As she was pulled to the entrance of the canteen, Gu Mengmeng could not help but say, I have lessons in the afternoon. Snake stood still and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. Due to his height, he looked like he was looking down on her. With endless pressure, he casually crushed Gu Mengmeng's lie with one sentence, I was the one who arranged the timetable for HR, are you sure you have lessons in the afternoon? Gu Mengmeng clearly saw the expression, you dare to lie to me? Do you want to die, on Snake's face? Hence, she swallowed her saliva and said, I don't have lessons. Snake snorted and did not say anything, continuing to walk towards the club. Gu Mengmeng's legs were shorter than Snake's, so she followed him step by step, pleading continuously, I'll accompany you to the club, but don't drag me along, it's not good if others see us. When they reached the entrance of the basketball court, Snake finally could not take it anymore. He turned back to look at Gu Mengmeng, who had been making a fuss the whole way, and asked through gritted teeth, am I so shameful? Is it so embarrassing to be involved with me? Gu Mengmeng was terrified by Snake's outburst. She shrunk her neck and did not dare to say a word, just looking at Snake pitifully with her big round eyes. Facing her fearful and innocent expression, Snake was at a loss of what to do. He released his hand and threw Gu Mengmeng onto the coach seat at the side of the court, saying with a cold face, I'll go change, you sit here and wait. Gu Mengmeng's little hands regained their freedom, and she immediately put them behind her back, nodding her head to show that she was obedient. Snake was afraid that he would really strangle her to death later, so he turned around and left. But after 2 steps, he suddenly turned back and looked at Gu Mengmeng, saying, you. Hurry up and give me a status. I don't want to be a wild man. With that, Snake went to the changing room without looking back, leaving Gu Mengmeng dumbfounded. What status? What wild man? Why couldn't she understand? University was most famous for its swimming club. Ever since Snakel joined, this club had risen with unstoppable momentum. Within half a year, it had already become the most powerful club in the city. However, following Snake's withdrawal, this association did not have a new capable warrior to replace Snake, so it fell into desolation almost overnight. In response to this, the basketball club, which was originally just a group of unknown boys who got together to play basketball and didn't even participate in any competitions, quickly rose as the swimming club fell into desolation and became a new star among the clubs. Usually, there were only a few boys sweating in the basketball club's activity field. Occasionally, they would bring their girlfriends to watch, but at most, there would be 2 or 3 kittens. And today, once the news of Snake's participation in the society activity was released, was this a club activity? Are you sure it's not a celebrity meet and greet? The edge of the basketball court was crowded with people, and the banners and lights were shining brightly. If Snake had not brought Gu Mengmeng to the court in advance, she probably wouldn't have been able to squeeze in even if she wanted to. The moment Snake and the rest of the team members walked out of the changing room after changing, it was as if a cup of water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. Gu Mengmeng felt as if her eardrums were about to burst. Chapter 948. To be honest, Gu Mengmeng had no concept of basketball itself. She barely knew some terms, which she learned from Kuroko's basketball. So she actually couldn't understand the intricacies of the competition. She could only understand one thing: Snake was so handsome. Whether it was raising his hand, dribbling the ball or just running, every move was so damn handsome. There were clearly 10 people competing in 2 teams, but Gu Mengmeng could only see one Snake. Was this what he meant when he said, "When you appear, everything else becomes background and passers-by A, B, C, D"? 29 hours, it seemed like, it was enough to like someone? Gu Mengmeng's heart was pounding. She lowered her head and stared at her toes, feeling as if she had discovered something incredible. Cheers erupted from the court. Gu Mengmeng looked up and saw that the winner had been decided. Regardless of who won or lost, both parties had a carefree smile on their faces. They did not seem to care too much about the outcome and just enjoyed the process of playing to their heart's content. Snake took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Mengmeng. He stretched out his hand and said, "Water." "Oh." Gu Mengmeng passed the mineral water beside her to Snake in a daze. Snake twisted open the bottle cap and poured the water over his head to cool down his body. He did not like basketball as it was too intense and he would sweat too much. In comparison, he felt more at ease in the water. But he realized that when they were playing basketball just now, Gu Mengmeng's gaze towards him was filled with obvious admiration and adoration. So, even though he was dealing with a bunch of stupid humans, as long as she liked it, he would do it. After Snake poured the water over his body did cool down, but the crowd became rowdy. The girls' screams were deafening and the 3D encircling "Snake, I want to give birth to monkeys for you" continuously hovered above the basketball court. So annoying, so noisy. Snake pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face with one hand and squeezed her mouth into a fish's mouth. He then lowered his head and directly kissed her lips. So sweet. His mood improved, and he could no longer hear the noise in his ears. After kissing for a long time, when both of them had difficulty breathing, Snake finally released Gu Mengmeng's blushing face. "As expected, only you can make me feel better." Gu Mengmeng finally snapped out of her trance after hearing Snake's words. She pushed Snake away and stood up. "This is my first kiss." Even though it was an accusation, it sounded especially pleasant to Snake's ears. The corners of his lips widened and his eyes were filled with a complacent and doting smile. He said, "I know, me too." "You." Gu Mengmeng was embarrassed and angry. "Why don't I let you kiss me back?" Snake moved his lips forward again, looking like he was letting her do whatever she wanted. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng was about to turn around and run, he pulled her into his arms with his large hands. Pressing his lips against Gu Mengmeng's ear, he smiled and said, "You've already kissed me, shouldn't you give me a status now?" I. Gu Mengmeng was extremely embarrassed and could not say a word. If they admitted that they were boyfriend and girlfriend, then giving their first kiss to their first love seemed very beautiful. But how could he admit it? Gu Mengmeng was suddenly at a loss. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.